Well, the journey took 3 days with many stops in between because I think the train was being shunted this way and the other. And although we had been told that we were going to Auschwitz, I had no idea what Auschwitz was, where it was, or what was expected of us. When we arrived in Auschwitz, men in striped pyjamas and shaved heads opened the wagons and said, "Leave all ill people, old people or children here. The rest of you out, quick, quick, men to the right, women to the left." Well, there were 5 females of us there. One of them was a doctor who was middle-aged and grey-haired. Another one was a youngish doctor, a dental hygienist, a nurse, and I. And we put a scarf over the head of the doctor because we didn't really want to be said. We didn't think that she should be with the elderly. Having by now a shrewd idea that she wasn't going to, any that were left behind wouldn't survive. And we just got out of the wagon, we linked arms and marched towards Dr. Mengele, who thought it was exceedingly funny that instead of the shuffling people, that here were 3 women who linked arms and who were marching ahead towards the gate, which had over the sign, Arbeit macht frei, works gives you freedom. We had arrived in Auschwitz. The first thing they did, that we were all taken into a big room or hall, told to strip, and then pushed into another room in small groups where we were sat on little stools and had the hair shaved all over our bodies, heads and everywhere else, surrounded by SS men and women who thought the whole thing was exceedingly funny and amusing. One of the people with the striped pyjamas was walking around with pliers and checking up whether people had gold teeth or gold filling, in which case they just pulled the teeth out. Fortunately, I've had good teeth all my life, so I didn't have that problem. We were next pushed into another room where we were showered, and then onwards to the next one where we were given assorted clothes. We were told to keep our shoes on. I think it would have been too difficult to fit people with shoes, whereas clothes could be any shape, size or color. And during that process, normal procedure was that people you were registered, you gave your name, where you were born, where you came from, what your profession was, but that was already to check with the list that they had from the Hungarians, and you had a number given, and the number was tattooed on your left forearm. Somehow or other, I don't know, to this day I don't know why, I don't know whether it was just me or the people on this transport, we didn't get a number tattooed on us, so I'm a woman that hasn't got a number. We were then taken into the camp proper, which consisted of huge wooden huts, and the walls were wooden, the lighting was through, there were windows high up so that no space was wasted where there were windows. And the couples, the people who were in charge of each hut, in our case, were Czech, so I could communicate with them, which gave me a slight advantage because I got a slightly bigger piece of blanket and I got maybe a little bit thicker soup because the ladle went down a little bit deeper when once a day we got our ration of soup. I can't remember how many people were in each block, but at night, in the evening, the couples do chalk lines on so that there were 3 lines of people on each side of a central corridor, and there were so many people that you could only sleep curled up, like spoons against each other. And if you had to go to the toilet, which was at the end of the block buckets, you just couldn't find your way back because there was no way that you could find the little gap that had been taken up by somebody else stretching themselves. Now, our days in the camp were taken up with a roll call, which they called appel, where you stood in lines of 5 for hours while they counted. Now, how they managed to count all the people in Auschwitz, where if anybody stumbled in the line, they were taken out and put in the gas chamber, where people in desperation threw themselves against the barbed wire fence, which were electrified. I just don't know. I think it was probably a way of control rather than a question of being counted. And we stood for hours in the morning and midday and in the evening, whatever the weather was. Once a day they came and they gave you some, it was supposed to be soup, but all I could identify was that it was liquid and there was something like grass in it. Once a week you were taken to be showered and to get leave your clothing, get another set of disinfected clothing on you. On one of those occasions I saw a group of gypsy women breaking stones, and it was the first occasion when, and the only occasion when I saw people who were not either in the striped pyjamas, in uniform, or in the rags in which we were. And the first occasion I realized that there were other people there as well, not just the people who were taken from Hungary or wherever from. One day, after having been showered, instead of getting our usual rags, we were given dark blue skirts and white blouses to wear. And when we came back to the hutman, all the latrines had been taken away, and instead of that there were wooden tables and benches, and we were told to sit down, where each of us given a card and a pencil and told to write home, which was a very good question. Who did you write to when most of you knew your family was here? And then a group of officials came, including the word went round, it was the papal nuncio, and he was all in purple, dressed like the cardinals dressed in purple. And the image was being presented of this was sort of a well-organized thing. Well, I had learned from when I went to school, we were taught Latin as a living language. So we spoke Latin, and I sort of, while looking down, I said, "Non credite quod videte," don't believe what you are seeing. And I sort of look up and realized he sort of was taken slightly back, and he extended his hand in blessing, and I just hoped that I was pretty certain the German soldiers hadn't realized what was happening. Whether the message ever got back, it is something I don't know. And as soon as he had been gone, we were straight away stripped of our clothes, given our old rags, the tables and benches were taken to another part of the camp, so somebody else was going to show the same image. One of the questions I get asked is whether people prayed there. I don't know. We didn't. We felt that it was the most God-forsaken place there ever was. Not only that there was no God, but that he actively had turned his back on the whole thing. We just felt a complete absence of it. And the odd thing is that when I talk to people who have been and visited there, they get the same feeling. So therefore this is a feeling of the place. So not only we feel it, but it is a thing that stuck to the place.